Hi all on PlayChess and streaming to YouTube. There's a change of schedule actually today. I played an over-the-board game which was quite interesting last night, and I think because the analysis is fresh in my head, it's probably worth going over that because it was quite a good time control actually. It was 80 minutes with 10-second increments, so it's played in North Circular Chess League, and I think it's still interesting to play over the board chess. It's very convenient to play online, but there's a big hassle factor with it. The getting there was difficult actually. The North Circular was kind of shut at various places. We had 2 defaults, so we're starting off 2 down in a 6-board match. So this was board 2. I was playing against someone much higher rated than I imagined actually. I thought I was playing 170 ECF, but I was playing a 192 who I played before, John Hodgson. Played him before. So yeah, I thought I should go over this because it's fresh in mind. Okay, so let's have a look at this game. I was white. I kicked off with d4, and I have in mind with the opening here, I really wanted to play much more solidly than my previous over-the-board game, which was so embarrassing I didn't want to talk about it. I had a very embarrassing Vienna game that, although I won, it was a disastrous opening. I wanted to try and keep things very solid and without too much risk, too much downside. And I think I'm starting to be more of a fan of something I was telling everyone it's like boring, but I'm a fan of kind of the London system, believe it or not, at the moment. So after knight f6, I didn't go into a king's engine or anything. I played knight f3 with the intention of sort of relative of the London system. So the London system, bishop f4, but here I played, actually let's see, live book, it's the third most popular move, c4, g3, bishop g5. It's actually more popular than bishop f4 according to live book by about 2,000 games worth. That's interesting. So bishop g5 is quite a popular third move here. Okay, so but I'm still going to set up this triangle of pawns against this bishop. So knight bd2, d6. Let's put on like a bit, sir, just in case. I have analysed it earlier in the day as well. Let's put on like a bit, sir, as well. So we have a kind of bog standard position that you might want to try this opening at some point. I was a bit concerned about this bishop. I don't want it to be taken out with h6, g5 and knight h5. So I was wondering about h3 here. I'm not sure this is entirely necessary. Let's see. Actually, it's quite a rare move, c3. Now let's just check out why. h6 here, g5. Let's just say knight h5. Maybe white just ignores that. Maybe white just ignores it. Black could take his time taking that bishop, but I think possibly, yeah, the engine is indicating just castle queenside here. If this happens, just castle queenside, so you're ready for the h file. So anyway, my caution about this was I wasn't quite thinking about doing that. Blimey. Okay, so let's see. Just hold on a sec. Okay, so my caution, castling queenside. So d6, h3, as though the bishop might want to go into h2. c5, so this tries to hit the pawn chain to potentially liberate the bishop. So I set up that triangle. So it is quite a stable system. The funny thing is, it's not that it's funny that they're also their board 1 is higher rated, like 197. He's a fan of the London system as well. I don't know if a lot of people are becoming very boring and becoming London system players, but there's a lot going for it because it is actually dedicated to kind of blunting the dark square bishop, the G7 bishop, and it's kind of an easy position, not too much risk, and you can this triangle is actually a solid structure, and it is very, very popular for grandmasters as black to have the triangle as black, and in a way you can consider it like a French defense almost, but with the bishop outside of the pawn chain. So there is a certain amount of solidity here. Now usually, for example, one plan you might think, isn't it encouraging like e5, e4 later? That's kind of like French defense if they do that, and you can hit the pawn chain hard in the centre. You shouldn't be too worried, except if you're going to lose your knight on f3 if it's got nowhere to go back. That could be embarrassing. That hasn't happened to me at all ever, except for today's blitz game on the channel where e5, e4 was winning a knight. Okay, that's one slight risk, but apart from that, it's a pretty solid position. So black played b6 here, and it looks totally fine what he plays here. There is Gatakamsky. He's a kind of enthusiast of London system style positions. Okay, let's see. Bishop e2, bishop b7, I castle, knight bd7. And here, I mean, it might be possible that there's a minority attack in the future to try and isolate the c pawn and the a pawn. It might be on the cards later, but sorry. Also, both myself and my opponent were aware of a guy called Michael Franklin who used to dominate a certain quick play in London. As over 210, and he was a Hastings player, and he was a great fan of it. We're both aware of this guy that was playing it as well, and he was regularly like doing well in tournament play with this system. So it's not just because of any particular grandmasters. It just has this reputation of being really solid. But I play a4 anyway to try and discourage any future plan, but also it means that if I'm not disturbed by b5, you can actually set up an important, I think this is an important battery against f7. So although it seems a little bit planless and passive, you can actually put pieces fairly aggressively. So I did actually with queen b3. And it's looking at 2 points. And I continue. Well, here, not yet with bishop c4. Actually, with this, I thought I should get my bishop here. Bishop h4, rook a c8, bishop. So tying down the d pawn. Just so that means any d5 is ruled out for the moment. But the queen is actually, this is very hypermodern. The queen's going to go here, putting pressure down the diagonal. So we have this optimal kind of position, I thought, for both sides. So I thought this is actually theoretically interesting, because I don't think I think both of us was played very, very sensible moves at this point. And he's tying down any knight movements which could be aggressive, like knight g5, because of this g2 issue, which would hit the rook. And I play rook fe1, which kind of relieves, in a way, this bishop takes g2. I was looking at a few variations where knight g5 might actually be of some significance for a potential sack. If I can just show that. But it's very difficult to actually move a piece and avoid showing you what I was thinking of as a threat. Can I just give you a ridiculous move just to see if this has any mileage? This position, forget d5 for a moment, this position, well, there's simply, yeah, it's difficult to actually show, but I thought there was some looming threat with knight g5, but it's actually difficult to sort of show that. if it is white's move, knight g5 is a threat. Yeah, I mean, even on this, there will be a knight takes f7, but I can't actually show this variation. Or maybe I can with a5. Let me see if I can with a5. Knight g5. There's always d5 to defend. But let's say e6. That's a bit okay. Knight g5 is a concern. Anyway, I think, and this next move surprised me, but it did seem quite logical. Bishop h6. So it does stop knight g5. There's also, by the way, there was also a possibility on knight g5 to trap the bishop. Bishop takes f3 would actually hold h3 and trap this bishop. That was also something I was kind of keen on doing by moving the rook here. I'm making bishop takes g2 a little bit less effective. And again, I'm not sure I can. Let me see if I can demonstrate rook c7. Yeah, bishop takes. Yeah, f3 might actually be one of the better moves, just to trap the bishop. And yeah, that would be a big, huge problem for black. If h6, then we can take here, and it's a disaster scenario. It's a disaster, especially the rook on c7. That actually does affect things. But anyway, so this is the kind of thing that was going on. Some background to this. So bishop h6 is now threatening potentially if cd ed, bishop takes, knight takes, bishop takes. So I'm not sure I want to take with the c pawn. So actually I challenge this bishop with bishop f4, but this is a structural concession. So a structural concession of accepting double pawns. But I really think he wouldn't want to go back here, because surely then, you know, knight g5 would be pretty good. But maybe black can just play bishop d5 actually. Maybe it's not such a big deal. This isn't such a big deal, this position. Okay. Yeah. Or even d5. Maybe it's not an entirely big deal. Okay. So anyway, he took here, which does open up the rook. But these double pawns are a big concern. They are a big concern. And in fact, he does something quite interesting. He actually gives up the light square bishop. I was kind of relieved when he did this, because I felt relieved, because it's kind of weakening. You think it might be weakening black's light squares in general to give up the light square bishop, but it has to be demonstrated why they'd be weak. So it is actually a very interesting continuation to take here and then to close up and then get a sort of French defense structure with e6 and d5. If he kept the bishop in, you know, hemmed in, I'm not sure that's so good, because then white's got that strong e5 square and can double on the e file. E6 is a possibility as well, though. E6 looks like it looks as though black is actually very comfortable here, and may even get rid of, say, the light square bishop. I think black's actually going to be, or even just use the d5 square for the knight. Black actually could be doing very well here. So this is a bit of a controversial decision, this double pawns. This sort of position, I think black's doing very well. It actually looks very comfortable, very comfortable. Yeah, black would be better here. Yeah, it's tricky, this double pawns thing, to try and justify it. So maybe, you know, bishop f4 is a bit of a dodgy move actually, objectively. Trying to piece play at the expense of structure, but that really ends up with black having good piece play actually. Maybe, okay, the more sensible move, this one. What is the damage on rook ad1? Probably limited. We're still playing this waiting game where, okay, let's follow this, where, okay, both sides are just waiting around, so nothing might happen, and maybe a draw if we were super GMs or something, I don't know. So, but no, this is action packed. Yeah, so already a structural concession. No waiting. Bishop takes f4. We have the double pawns, the pressure, and now another kind of committal decision, and then closing things up with d5. And if I go here, then there's c4. If I go here, then it looks pointless. So I thought the only way is here, so I can sort of get the bishop here and put some pressure on d5 later. Okay, actually I might need to make some mods on this stream actually, for some of the more, sorry, on the YouTube stream, pardon me. Can I add you, Bennett, can I add you as a moderator? You seem trustworthy. Sorry, on my YouTube stream. I should really have some more moderators on my YouTube stream. Please let me know if you're interested and you are trustworthy. Or on to be a moderator. I should have some more moderators there. Pardon me. Okay, thank you, Bennett. I hope I haven't chosen the wrong person there. Okay, so I can get back to this without worrying too much. But I should have some more moderators on my YouTube there. So anyway, bishop f1. So I want to reroute the bishop to g2 to put pressure on the light, start to put pressure on the light squares. But there is a very, very big problem here. Black is really, really ultra solid actually in many respects. And also, if I did, well, I played g3 and we have c4. Okay, I for a moment think about queen a3, but I'm thinking the queen might actually be useful later for some sort of attack like this. So that influences the decision actually to play queen c2. I think that's more flexible for the queen being an attacking piece. And this plan is also controversial in a way, but I look at the structure here and I'm thinking, you know, if it was a French, it looks like a French defense, and in the French defense quite often f5 and undermining at e6 is a common idea, because you do a few things when you do that. Sometimes you might get a good blockade square on e5, and other times you have a backward pawn to target on e6. So f5 is often a common thing against the French defense, and of course you're opening up not light squares, you're opening up dark squares in the process of trying to undermine the pawn chain. So I thought this was an interesting plan to play for f5, but I wasn't entirely sure actually what else to do. What else does white do? Oh, thank you, Jordan, thank you. Sorry, I do need some mods. I don't know why I've neglected this aspect. Jordan's a mod as well. Thank you. Okay, so what I was saying, so f5 is a kind of thematic thing you do in the French defense, but here, I mean, it might suffer a downside of that. Black's going to grab this f-file pressure, and I'm going to be left with this bad bishop still, this bishop which isn't that great. So I played this, but not really convinced. But I'm not sure what else white is doing in this position. Now we can look at knight e5, and I did look at knight e5, but I wasn't entirely sure what would be happening here. Now say I do undouble pawns, although in one respect it's nice to undouble pawns. If we reach this position, so say this position, where, you know, when am I going to do any structural change now? Although I've undoubled the pawns, in fact black might be hitting with b4 and damaging my pawn structure quite quickly. So black's thematic versus white's thematic. So f5 versus b4. We're trying to like wreck each other's pawn chains at what you consider, Watson's called it the most exploitable base of the pawn chain. Not the actual base here or here, but the exploitable base is what you can get your hands on basically quite easily, which is either e6 or c3. So white, but I wasn't convinced about this position. Maybe black's actually kind of quicker anyway. If we try and bust black up with f5, I'm not sure this is going to go well. It might, I don't know. I haven't looked this far, obviously with an engine, but let's have a look at this scenario. it actually has it about equal. This might have been the way to play it. It looks as though, because the king's here, there's an added bonus. If there's extra piece mobility or attacking mobility to get the king, that makes a slight difference actually. Okay, and noticed isolation of pawns here as well, and the chain getting a bit weaker. But it has it about equal. I wasn't convinced about that. I thought the really aggressive thing to do here would be to play for f5. So I played g4, but we're going into unsound territory potentially. We've not. I think that there's a simple thing to do would be this. This is the recommended, probably the textbook thing, is to undouble the pawns and hope for the best after that. But it seems logical to try and repair one's pawn structure. And if that knight was tolerated there, then there might be some attacking intentions like this, with an undermining plan like this, to use that h-file. That could be sort of dangerous for black. With a perched knight there, I think h5 is sacks as well. So that would be dangerous if that knight was left there. But anyway, this is getting into controversial territory. G4. So knight e8, and I thought he could close up potentially with f5. So I play f5 to extinguish black's possibility of closing the position with f5. Now, yes, this came as a rude awakening. Knight g7. I have to do something about f5, and I can't allow the f file to open up in black's favour like this, because I'll have targets all around the shop. So, if f takes, I thought I'd have targets anyway. But maybe it's actually okay. This isn't as bad as it might seem, because there is this backward pawn now. Although black might be easy to double the f rooks, it might actually be okay for white. There are dark square weaknesses as well in white's camp here. But apparently this is okay actually. This should be okay. Let's have a look. If the rooks have a double, it's still, maybe it should be okay. Okay, yeah, but I didn't like the thought of that particularly, but maybe it's not something that bad, because as long as f3 is supported, or you're not dropping material, this knight's actually kind of restricted here. If you look at this knight, it's actually restricted by that fixed pawn on e6. So this is a bit passive for black potentially. But okay, so knight g7, I actually support the f5 pawn with knight h4. We have rook b8, and I wanted to really gain time for some sort of attack. Remember a Magnus Carlsen game, he puts his queen here and a knight here, and then works on that as from an attacking position to build on that sort of attacking position where black's kind of passive, and you need to throw in a rook into the mix. And there is a potential rook left here, so I thought that sort of plan is really interesting. It's crude, but kind of justified, because this knight is a bit on the passive side. So I thought, okay, I'll try and gain time for this kind of attacking installation. Queen on h6, or knight on g5, and a potential rook lift. So I won't worry about the queen side too much. In fact, I'll offer a dislocated pawn. I won't even take here, because I thought if I take here, that maybe I'm maximising the speed of black challenging and coming down the a file later if I take there. So I thought by leaving it, it might slow things down. We have b4, and I go in for this attacking kind of installation. So I want to get queen on h6, a knight on g5, and then throw in a rook lift. B takes, rook b3, but he's counter-attacking. Rook ac1. I was kind of happy that if it doubles rooks, I can play rook c2 as a shield on the second rank. Rook fb8, but actually I didn't bother with that here. Actually, funny enough, I didn't bother with that here with rook c2. I actually went in for queen h6. Queen h6 here. We have rook b2. Now this is a very interesting defensive moment. If my plan is really this crude plan, there is a downside of this plan. If a knight is able to defend h7 at either f8 or f6. But actually, there's a move which picks out the downside, which is queen d6, because it will be ready to pin a knight on g5. We both looked at this and agreed this has been really strong for black, and it casts doubt on white's attacking potential actually, quite significantly. So if we ever have this position, now let's say black could even take there and defends, I think either with f8 or f6, but the point is queen f4 is coming in strong, and then actually my own king is subject to attack with this horrible pin, and I'm not sure, I think it would be dead lost. So this does cast doubt on the entire plan. It would have to adapt here on queen d6. There has to be some change made here. I'm not sure this is actually a sound position anymore. That it's not that stable. I've managed to wreck the whole structure of the London system here, going in for this attack. Actually, this would be an embarrassing move. But okay, the time limit, if you didn't pick it up, it was just an 80-minute game with 10-second increment. So it's not like a major one-day game or anything. But queen d6 does seem like one of the best moves in the position. A kind of ready to pin sort of move. It's ready to pin on this attacking intention, because once that pin's there, then it's also like attacking f2, which is also weak. Actually, my dark squares are weak. They are weak. Okay, but anyway, he played rook b2, so thankfully he leaves this on a light square, and in fact, to my delight, this might have been a time to consider taking this pawn, by the way. It seems as though that might be possible as well. But he played actually rook a2, and this lets me get on with things. Taking here does seem, actually, it might actually be, again, it probably one of the best things to do. If takes here, this is not so bad for black. There's no attack. Not much, I think. Although, okay, it's not dead lost yet for white, but I think that might be the way to go, to just take that pawn. We see rook a2 instead. Now going for this pawn, the rooks are not coordinated, and there's some loose pieces actually. The queen is not protected by anything at the moment, and these guys are kind of loose pieces. They're emerging here tactically. Knight g5. Okay, so this causes, I was hoping for knight f6, because then rook e3, f3, fg, I'm hitting f6. But this seems better to play knight f8. But there's a huge tactical flaw which I didn't see here with knight f8, which is actually kind of fascinating and something to look out for when you've got a queen on h6. There's two things to look out for. Now, one is blatantly obvious in your face, the h7 pawn, but there's another issue tactical of tactical interest if you have a queen on h6, and it's actually exposed by this combination that white would have in this position, which I completely missed. I wonder if any of you can spot it. White play, there's a crushing combination here available, which I completely missed. White's play, if I give you 20 seconds, it was a standard game, but the North Circular League is 80 minutes with 10-second increments. So it is played as an evening club match game. So it was Barnet Elizabethans versus Wanstead 1 in the North Circular Chess League. I'm going to give you the first move. So the opponent was John Hodgson. So he's like 192 ECF. And about 2100 at the moment FIDE. And he's been high up FIDE. So f6 is the move actually, which I thought wouldn't do anything. That's why I didn't calculate this any further, because I thought there's nothing to calculate here. I've just destroyed my own attack. Plus, yeah, because this is defended, this is defended. The knights are defending, right? Plus, black is now threatening knight takes f6. So I kind of rejected this position out of hand. I rejected this position. I didn't investigate it further, but there is something here in this position, believe it or not, which engines pick up immediately. So if I say to you white to play here, I'll give you 20 seconds. Because you're creating a liability. The f6 pawn is now a liability, right? Can you all see it? It was a shocker when I found it when checking the game with a computer today. It was shocking to me that I would miss such a thing. It makes me think there's so much tactically. You think you're having these deep things, but there's so much tactically one is missing, which in just 2 seconds an engine would find, and you could spend like 20 minutes and just not see it. You can spend 10 minutes and just not see it, basically. Yeah? I mean, it helps if you're told if there's something there and you're forced into this position where there's a liability. But would you really do this if you didn't instantly see a winning move? Okay, can anyone else want to guess the move on thingy? On stream? It's not bishop takes d5, no. Anyone else? Sorry, is this chat gone? Sorry, what's happening? If I say hi, refresh there. Alright, I'll show you. Rook takes e6. It actually protects the pawn and hits the queen. Now, not queen takes, but now if takes here, then actually there's f7 check, pushing the king here. I'm protecting the knight, which is not protected. Bang. I'll just reload here to see what's happening with the chat. Yeah, I completely missed this tactic. I mean, this is increment, you know, I didn't, because sometimes you reject something because it seems scary, but but you shouldn't. In a longer game, it's not like a blitz game. You should look at all the scary looking. The reason, you know, you might reject this is because you think everything's defended and the f6 pawn's dropping. There's no point checking this further. But what's happened in slow motion is actually there's been a disconnection made of the rook protecting the knight. It's only the king holding the knight. But the original point of putting the queen on h6 was to mate on h7. I wasn't even thinking about the f8 square. But now, if you have a queen on h6, there's two things to think about. The diagonal, as well as the h7 square. There should be two things to think about, tactically at least, right? The diagonal. You know, the legal moves available of a queen on h6. Yeah. So I missed that one. But there's also another one available. There's another tactical idea as well. There's actually two tactical ideas. F takes is not too bad, although this is not entirely crushing. If H takes, it's not entirely crushing this one by any stretch of the imagination. But there is also knight takes f7 with the idea of winning the rook. But this can be ignored. You don't have to go in for this to lose the rook. There's actually black can plow on like this. So anyway, little interlude. I kind of mess up there. I didn't see that at all. Fascinating tactic, f6. Okay, I play rook e3, but I have got an idea of this, and rook f7. Or if rook b7, rook takes f8, and queen takes h7. I thought with the rook on the f file, this is going to be really dangerous for black. Now, to my relief, he takes this pawn, and I'm thinking of that Kasparov quotation: when your house is on fire, you don't worry about a pawn on the queen side. So this is a pawn on the queen side. I thought Kasparov would be happy. The house is on fire over here. Pawn on the queen side. If you're the opponent, you don't worry about your pawn there. You're going for the king, and nothing's coordinated. There's no battery in sight between these three. They're all doing their own thing. They're not coordinated. When they're coordinated, then they're hitting things like f2. Then that's when you worry. When they've just picked up an a pawn, give you another 5 moves for your attack, then you don't need to be that worried. Here, this is actually technically a really, really good position for white. Just technically, from an engine point of view, this is crushing the position. Now, and in fact, this tactic I mentioned earlier, without this rook here bearing down on f2, there's no rook b2. So in fact, even that tactic I mentioned is much stronger with this double attack idea from f4. The queen can also go backwards as well as forwards on a diagonal, and in fact fg is strong. This is technically the strongest. So if fg, then rook f3 exposes rook takes f7, or potentially rook f7 is actually the stronger one. And if here, this is quite strong, which is one of my ideas actually that I was excited about, because the queen coming over here is dangerous. This knight's stuck. The knight is really stuck here. This is like winning for white, this position. Let's give you an example. I'll push this further. It's black's not really doing. Can we just win material with this? Probably. I mean, it's no good, that position. But also, if hg, then actually knight takes f7 is very destructive. Without any rook b2, you see that the rooks are nothing to worry about. There's no battery in sight on f2. So there's no rook b2, because this is black's just getting torn to shreds. You just carry on and threatening mate now. So otherwise there's this pedantic loss of material with the check for the unprotected piece. Queen f4. I mean, actually we can just take time out just to take this material, and that would be winning. It's not just winning the material, it's the pin, isn't it? There's rook f3 to the pin. It's a lot of damage. This knight's still stuck as well. So, but no, I didn't see that tactic either. So this is a great position tactically. F takes g is actually the strongest thing to do. Yeah, so h takes, there's knight takes. Now, I'm not seeing the tactics. I have got an idea. I've got an idea that I have seen some tactics. Rook f3 with the idea of fg, because this is going to build on the queen and knight installation. Rook f3, which I play. So it's still dangerous for black, but actually black has, believe it or not, it seems, a saving resource in this position, just to take the pawn now in this position. After g takes, apparently rook b7 or rook b6, and this should be actually kind of secure for black. The knights are holding things. f7 isn't such a big deal. This isn't such a big deal, this position, in fact. If we try and play f6 to try and mate, both knights are like, well, this one can hold there. But I'm wondering also if this was possible. Yeah. No, maybe. No. Apparently it's not. h4. With the idea of, I think, blasting through the h file, it's actually best to do this. Okay, so anyway, but the game ended abruptly because knight takes f5 was played. And can you see what white plays here? White's play, I hope you see the final move. I mean, final move, I know the game ended abruptly, I'm afraid. Yeah, it wasn't like a major attacking brilliant game, but it was just my game last night. Okay, so yeah, White's play, you can see the final move. Yeah, it's funny enough, there's a pedantic issue. I call these issues kind of pedantic because the original focus was on the king side, but picking out loose pieces on the queen side is something you should be aware of. And if you look at a lot of the attacking players, like there's Metanov, they were aware of that you don't always have to deliver some knockout blow on the king side. You can just pick off loose pieces on the queen side. Bang, loose piece on the queen side. And that was it. And that was my game last night. But you know, this exhaustion, it's exhaustion. So for today, it's a lot of energy that goes in, you know, for the variations one did see. And it's funny, you know, in 1 second an engine will show you all these variations you didn't see, which are more relevant. Obviously, they're more relevant and more precise than you could imagine being available. But the real shocker was the F6 line with Rook E6 for me. So I hope you got something out of this. Change of schedule. We'll try and go on Kasparov games next week. Thank you for the new mods. Hopefully less hassle next week. Try and get a team of mods together on YouTube stream. Okay, so thanks, and should be back Tuesday. Back on schedule Tuesday. I haven't got an away match. I try and avoid things, but sometimes I can't. So it was an away match on Tuesday, but we're back to Tuesday next week. Probably looking at Kasparov game, much more quality. But this is personal. This is my own exhaustion getting there, pain, blundering, etc. Okay, which you might find interesting, or not seeing all the stuff that Kasparov would. But anyway, okay. So what was comical later? So we were 2 down in a 6-board match, by the way, and there was this comical end game later where someone outside had knight and 2 pawns against queen, but the opponent's king was also far away. I found it so funny, but we actually managed to win this remarkably. This position where we had knight and 2 pawns against queen, and we actually managed to win the match. So we overturned our 2 defaults. Someone was stuck in a north circular, so defaulted, and actually we have trouble at the moment getting a 6. So we had 2 defaults in a 6-board match, usually fatal. But the 4 players that did turn up, you know, we got 3.5 out of 4, so we ended up winning the match as well. So it all helped. Okay, thanks. Have a good week. See you next week. Comments, questions, likes, appreciated. Thanks very much.